Have you ever wondered where the painful chapter of residential schools in Canada began? The story takes us back to the early 19th century in the region now known as Sault Ste. Marie. Here, the roots of residential schools began to take shape. Before the establishment of the notorious Shingwauk school, smaller mission schools had already begun to emerge in Sault Ste. Marie. These schools marked the beginning of a system that would profoundly impact the lives of First Nations, Metis, and Inuit children for generations. Enter Chief Shingwauk. In the 1830s, he traversed the challenging terrains by canoe and snowshoe to York, now known as Toronto. His mission? To petition Governor John Colborne for resources to establish a teaching wigwam in Garden River. A few years later, in 1833, an Anglican missionary named William McMurray arrived in Garden River First Nation. His arrival sparked the creation of a day school at the top of Pym Hill in Sault Ste. Marie. This school was attended by children from the Garden River First Nation and was funded by both the government and the Anglican Church. As the years rolled on, the mission schools expanded. A second-day mission school was established in the Garden River community in 1870. These schools, though small and relatively understated, were the precursors to the larger, more institutionalized residential schools that would soon follow. It's important to remember that these early schools were not just buildings or institutions. They were part of a larger, more complex system that sought to control and assimilate Indigenous populations into Euro-Canadian society. The day schools at Pym Hill and Garden River were the first steps in this process, setting the stage for what was to come. Thus, the foundation was laid for what would become the Shingwauk Indian Residential School. As we delve deeper into this history, we'll unravel the stories of the children who walked through the doors of these institutions, forever changed by their experiences if they left here alive. We'll explore the resilience and strength of Indigenous communities in the face of such adversity, and the legacy that these residential schools have left behind. In 1871, the story of the Shingwauk Indian Residential School began to unfold. This was the year when Reverend Edward Francis Wilson, an Anglican missionary, arrived in Garden River First Nation. His vision was to establish a residential school for First Nations, Metis, and Inuit children. Wilson worked tirelessly with the Anglican Church, the Canadian government, and the local First Nation community to raise funds for this ambitious project. In the midst of his efforts, Wilson found himself navigating a complex landscape of cultural expectations, governmental policies, and the practicalities of building a school from the ground up. But his perseverance paid off. On September 22, 1873, as the result of his relentless fundraising and advocacy, the Shingwauk Industrial Home was officially opened in Garden River First Nation. The school started with 16 boys enrolled as students, marking a significant milestone in the education of Indigenous children in Canada. However, the joy and hope that accompanied the school's opening were short-lived. A mere 6 days later, the school was completely destroyed by fire. This devastating event sent shockwaves through the community. The loss of the school was not just about the loss of a building. It was the loss of a dream, a vision, a beacon of hope for the future of Indigenous education. Yet, in the face of this tragedy, the spirit of resilience that defines the history of the Shingwauk Indian Residential School was born. The fire, though catastrophic, did not dampen the determination of Reverend Wilson and the community. They refused to let this setback halt their mission. The journey of the Shingwauk Indian Residential School was marked by this initial hardship, but it was far from the end. The flames that engulfed the Shingwauk Industrial Home were a harsh introduction to the challenges that lay ahead. But the story of the Shingwauk Indian Residential School is one of resilience in the face of adversity, a testament to the enduring spirit of the people it served. The fire marked a devastating start to the residential school's journey, but it was far from the end. From the ashes of the Shingwauk Industrial Home, a new establishment arose. The demise of the original school in Garden River First Nation led to the purchase of a 90-acre site in Sault Ste. Marie, at what we now know as 1520 Queen Street East. It was here that Reverend Edward Francis Wilson began to construct a new vision for the education of First Nations, Metis, and Inuit children. On July 31, 1874, the Earl of Dufferin, then serving as the Governor-General of Canada, made his way to the school site. With a crowd gathered to witness the significant event, he laid the cornerstone of what was to become the Shingwauk home. A little over a year later, on August 2nd, 1875, the new school officially opened its doors to 50 eager students. Life at the Shingwauk home was far from luxurious. The building, constructed in the late 19th century, did not have running water or electricity. Yet, despite these challenging conditions, the students and staff persevered, learning and teaching in an environment that was a far cry from the comforts of modern-day classrooms. The original Shingwauk home stood strong for 6 decades, weathering the trials of time and change. However, by the mid-1930s, it was evident that the aging building was no longer fit for purpose. In 1935, a new structure, fittingly named the New Shingwauk Hall, was erected to replace the old building. This grand edifice, which still stands today, forms the central building of Algoma University. The Shingwauk home, both old and new, played an integral role in the education of First Nations, Metis, and Inuit children in Canada. Its story is one of resilience and determination, of a community striving to provide an education for its children in the face of numerous adversities. Despite the challenges, the Shingwauk home continued to operate, paving the way for further expansion. It stands as a testament to the strength and perseverance of the First Nations, Metis, and Inuit communities, a poignant reminder of their enduring spirit. With the Shingwauk home in operation, attention turned to the education of female students. The Shingwauk home was not designed to house both genders, and a solution was needed. A 5-kilometre stride away in a place called Tarantoris, the Wawanosh home came into existence. This separate residential school for girls was established in 1877, initially enrolling 10 eager students. The Wawanosh home was far from complete upon its initial opening. It was a work in progress, and construction continued for 2 more years. By 1879, the school was fully operational and ready to welcome more students. Enrollment increased to 15, and the government provided an annual funding of $600 for the industrial education of the Wawanosh students. The guiding force behind the Wawanosh home was the Anglican Church, with the dedicated Reverend E.F. Wilson overseeing operations. Under his watchful eye, the school aimed to provide a well-rounded education for its female attendees. However, by the mid-1880s, Wilson began to see the benefits of a united front. He believed that the Wawanosh home could be more effectively managed if the girls were on the same site as the Shingwauk home. And so, a girls' wing was added onto the Shingwauk home on Queen Street, marking the beginning of a new era. In 1900, the Wawanosh home officially relocated to the Shingwauk site. The old Wawanosh home found new life when it was purchased by the Children's Aid Society of Algoma. For over 40 years, from 1912 to 1955, it served as a shelter. Today, the site is home to the Sault Ste. Marie Legion Hall, Branch 25. The integration of the Wawanosh home into the Shingwauk home was more than just a logistical move. It was a symbol of unity, of progress, and of a shared journey. The Wawanosh home's integration into the Shingwauk home marked another milestone in the residential school's history. Behind the walls of the Shingwauk home, a tragic history unfolded. Just northeast of Shingwauk Hall, nestled next to Snowdon Park, lies the Shingwauk Memorial Cemetery. This quiet, sombre place is the final resting ground for over 120 students and staff who were part of the Shingwauk Indian Residential School's story. The cemetery is a poignant symbol of the dark history that unfolded within the walls of the Shingwauk home. It is a testament to the lives that were irrevocably changed and to those that were tragically lost during the school's near century of operation. In this cemetery, each grave tells a story of a life interrupted, a childhood stolen. However, the full extent of this tragedy is not immediately apparent to the naked eye. Many of these graves are unmarked, their occupants anonymous, their stories untold. But the silence of these unmarked graves does not mean they are forgotten. There is an ongoing search, a quest to uncover the identities of those who lay beneath the earth, to bring their stories to light and to honour their memory. This search is not just about uncovering graves. It's about acknowledging the past, understanding the depth of the suffering that took place and learning from it. It's about giving voice to the voiceless and making sure that the lessons of history are not lost. The Shingwauk Memorial Cemetery is not just a place of mourning. It is a place of remembrance, a place of education, and a place of healing. It is a stark reminder of the tragic history of the Shingwauk Indian Residential School. But it is also a symbol of resilience, of the spirit of survival that continues to live on in the descendants of those who were a part of the Shingwauk story. As we stand at the precipice of this solemn ground, let us remember, let us learn, and let us honor the lives of those who came before us. The Shingwauk Memorial Cemetery stands as a stark reminder of the tragic history of the Shingwauk Indian Residential School. The Shingwauk Indian Residential School left an indelible mark on the history of Canada. This institution, like many others of its kind, was a place of learning, but also a place of immense hardship and struggle for the First Nations, Metis, and Inuit children who walked its halls. The experiences of these children, now grown, echo through the years. Their stories are testament to their resilience and strength. The school's impact extends beyond its students. It reverberates throughout the First Nations, Métis, and Inuit communities in Canada. For many, it represents a painful period of cultural disruption and loss. Yet, in the face of these adversities, these communities have shown remarkable resilience, preserving their rich cultures and traditions against all odds. Today, the legacy of the Shingwauk Indian Residential School is not just one of pain, but also of transformation and rebirth. Shingwauk Hall, the central building of the former school, stands as a symbol of this transformation. It now forms the heart of Algoma University, a place of higher learning that celebrates diversity, inclusivity, and respect for all cultures. The university's commitment to reconciliation is evident in its initiatives like the Shingwauk Residential Schools Centre, which serves as a research and educational resource on the history of residential schools in Canada. It is a place where survivors and their families can tell their stories and where the broader community can learn from these narratives. This transformation of Shingwauk Hall is a testament to the resilience and strength of the First Nations, Metis, and Inuit communities. They have turned a place that once represented cultural disruption into a beacon of knowledge, understanding, and reconciliation. The legacy of the Shingwauk Indian Residential School is a poignant reminder of a dark chapter in Canada's history, offering lessons that must never be forgotten. It is a call to remember, to understand, and to learn. It is a call to ensure that such a history never repeats itself, and to strive for a future built on respect and understanding for all cultures.